Oh, I know it's messy in here at the moment, and to be honest, it's as messy as it is because I've basically stopped production on the Lego room until I can resolve what we're about to talk about in this video. But look at it, it is, despite the mess, a thing of beauty that has started from nothing earlier in the year. Back in April this year, this room was just a spare bedroom. It's now made it to this, and goodness me, am I going to be gutted if I have to give it up already. And that, unfortunately, is a distinct possibility. Those of you who watched our stream earlier in the week will already be aware of what I'm about to talk to you about, but I hinted about it on the Prime Day video as well. And I guess I need to talk about it properly because it is going to directly have an impact on the content that we're releasing on this channel, at least in the short to medium to potentially, like, hopefully not long term, but certainly for a little while, there's going to be less Lego City content on here than there has been previously. And that's because Monday of this week, I was just having my breakfast, making my coffee, and received a text message from my landlord saying they were looking to sell the house. It's not quite as dramatic as that. It wasn't an eviction notice. They actually said, I'm looking to sell the house. Do you want to buy it? Yes, I do want to buy it. But because of a whole load of reasons that we don't really need to get into on a Lego video, we can't yet. I did toy with whether this was a video that was even suitable for this channel or whether it should have been on the vlog channel or whether I needed to share this stuff at all. But I've said for years, long before I started this channel, for years on the internet, I have used YouTube videos as therapy. And I just find that talking through what's going on in my life helps me sort my head out and figure out what to do about what's going on. And as much as this is not a Lego video, you've already seen and can now see as much Lego as you're going to see in this video. So if you're just here for cool Lego stuff, come back to the next video. There'll be more of that coming very, very soon. But this one is really an explanation of why there's going to be less stuff in this room for now. Hopefully not long term, just for now. Because like I say, my landlord is looking to sell the house. We can't buy it currently. To cut a long story very short, although I've been self-employed as a content creator for years, like getting on for 10 years now, 8 years full-time, 10 years since I first made my first penny off of a YouTube video. We've only actually been self-employed in its current form for a little under a year. I was a sole trader for many, many, many years. Last year, we converted to a limited company on the advice of our accountant. And it was great advice because it caused our tax bill to go down massively. We paid maybe a third of the tax last year compared to what we paid the year before. The year before's tax bill had been absolutely horrific. But with that, and with bringing Anna in as a partner in that and restructuring how it works and changing year-end dates, it basically means that on paper right now, our income looks much lower than it actually is because the company hasn't submitted its first year's accounts yet. So we had our self-assessment from a couple of years ago that shows a very healthy level of income. And then the changeover happened. And I don't really understand the ins and outs of it. My accountant has done it all. I trust that they've done it correctly. It all seems right. As dodgy as this might sound to anyone who doesn't understand self-employment, I fully get it. We're not tax evading. We're just being more tax efficient. But it basically means that some of the income that we made was left within the company. And because the company hasn't done accounts yet, there's no way of easily proving to someone who isn't like a forensic accountant, there's no way of easily proving that the money exists and that we earn what we actually earn. So yeah, to cut a long story very short, I've had a meeting with a financial advisor this week. I am a financial advisor in a former life as well, but I haven't practiced for like 15 years. So I figured let's go and speak to a financial advisor. And they basically said, yeah, and right now you can't get a mortgage to buy that house. You could get a much smaller mortgage, or you could wait, because this time next year we would be able to. This time last year we would have been able to. It is just the worst possible timing for us to have to try and buy this house, because right now this year we can't. So the way that has been left at the moment, and the way this links back into Lego and this channel, is obviously we might potentially have to leave this house where I've built the Lego City. And if we are to do that, we can't buy anywhere at the moment. Our planned next move was going to be to buy somewhere, but obviously we can't get a mortgage at the moment, so we can't buy unless we massively downsize. So we've now got a load of different options available to us, all of which potentially have an impact on the Lego collection, the Lego City, this channel. Not necessarily negative, some of them are positive potential implications and fast forward plans we maybe had anyway. We've just got to take some time, work out what the best one to do is, and make sure that we're making the right decision for the right reasons and not rushing into anything. We've got to find out what's actually available, because at the moment it's all very theoretical. We haven't started viewing houses yet, so we don't even know if we're going to have to leave here yet, because I guess that's the starting point. You can tell this isn't a planned video. The way it's been left with my landlord at the moment is, right, I can't buy now what I really want to buy. Can we rent off you for 1 more year and then buy this time next year? They're really keen to sell now, but at the same time, they're also very keen to sell to us, because if they sell to us, they're not going to have to pay estate agency fees. They're not going to have any period where the house is sat empty, either because we've moved out as tenants and they're having to pay the mortgage without any rent coming in, or maybe they're not able to find a buyer straight away, or maybe a sale falls through. There's all kinds of reasons why the property could just sit here empty if they sell to anyone other than us. And obviously for every month that it's sat here empty, they're going to have to pay their mortgage without any rent coming in. So every month that happens is going to cost them £1,000, let's say. Let's pluck a number out there. I don't know what the numbers are, but £1,000 a month for every month that the property is sat empty. So if we were to move out next month and they didn't sell until February, that's costing them £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 just in mortgage payments and lost rent. Plus, I don't even know, what is it, 2% maybe estate agency fees these days? I've not worked in estate agency for many, many years, but you're looking at least £5,000 in estate agency fees, presumably, that they'd have to pay if they were to sell to anyone other than us. So you're looking at potentially £10,000 plus of lost money by selling to anyone other than us. So there is the big incentive to sell to us. But to do that, they have to wait a year, which means 2 things. One is obviously any equity they've got tied up in this house, they can't get at for a year. And if they want the equity, they need to sell now. They won't necessarily be able to sell now, but if they want that money, they'll have to sell now. So that will make them less inclined to want to rent to us for a little bit longer and then sell to us. But also, and again, this is pure speculation, I don't know any of their details, but I would assume there's a very good chance they're coming to the end of a fixed rate mortgage, as so many homeowners are, and their mortgage is probably going to be going up. So they might want to get out before their mortgage goes up. So there's potential motivators to sell now and also potential motivators to sell in a year. They've asked for some time to think over the proposal. I've basically proposed to them that we sign another 1-year tenancy with like a handshake agreement to buy the house in a year's time, and we'd even agree to a rent increase. But I said, I don't know if your mortgage is going up, we'd even do a small rent increase to help cover that as part of signing that 1-year lease, and then do the handshake agreement on buying next year. And they've asked for the week to think it over. So at the moment, we're a little bit in limbo. I think the fact that they're thinking it over as much as they are means there's a good chance they go for that. And if they do go for that, then obviously we're here for another year and everything is fine. If they don't go for that, we then know we are going to have to move, and have to move relatively quickly, because my busiest time of the year on my main channel, my Football Manager channel, kicks off towards the end of September, early October, and I won't have time to move house then. So if we're going to have to move house in the next 6 months, realistically, we have to move house in the next 2 months. So if we're going to have to move house, obviously I don't want to keep adding to the Lego City, because what is the point of adding to it if I'm only going to have to disassemble it and take it apart and move it somewhere else? And potentially the place it will be moving to might not even have space for it. So not only do I not want to keep adding to it because it's work adding to it, taking it apart and then re-adding it, there's a potential scenario where anything we buy for it now might not even have anywhere in a potential new house. The set that immediately springs to mind is the tram that's coming out on the 1st of August that I've wanted for ages. I keep going on about this tram. I want to have 2 train lines in the city. We've actually got 2 train lines in now. That space is there, ready and waiting for that tram. It was a no-brainer day one, 1st of August purchase for us. Whereas now, it isn't, unless we sign a 1-year lease between now and then, because what's the point of buying it if in 2 months' time we're living somewhere where I don't have room for a Lego city, because I don't have nowhere to put it, and it's just a box that's in the way that we're going to have to move. So we're going to massively scale down the stuff that we're buying. It's going to have a big impact on what happens on the 1st of August, partly because there's no point adding it to the city, partly because there's no point building very much because we're only going to have to disassemble it again potentially, and partly because even if we were to just buy it and store it, we're still going to have to move it if we have to move house. So it's only going to be the stuff that we need to keep the content rolling over that we're going to buy. So I imagine 1st of August, for example, we'll get the Jaws set because Anna loves sharks and it'll be a fun set for us to stream. So we're not stopping the content, we're just trying to be a little bit more sensible with it. The other reason, of course, is if we are going to have to move house, moving house is expensive, we should probably spend some money on that rather than on Lego for a little bit. So that's the situation with the current house. And then if we do have to move, which I am hopeful we won't, I'm hoping this is all a false alarm, but I wanted to get the video out so that you at least knew why there was no Lego City updates for the last couple of weeks and not to expect one super soon. But if we do have to move house, there's then the decisions around, well, what do we move to? Because like I say, the plan had been to buy next year. That was our plan. We were going to buy next year, and we hadn't yet decided whether we were going to buy another big house like this so we can keep everything on site, or one thing we'd really quite started leaning towards is buying somewhere smaller, maybe like a 2-bed house, maybe a bungalow, maybe a ground floor flat because of Anna's mobility issues, somewhere without stairs, somewhere a little bit smaller, somewhere a little bit easier to keep clean and tidy, and then move all of the work stuff off site to some kind of commercial property. So my office for my Football Manager content, effectively my office / studio for the Football Manager gaming content, and then also take the Lego City off site and get some office space with room for a city, room for a studio, quite a nice big studio space, and put it all there. But we haven't even started looking. You know, it was something that was, well, that would be cool to do. I don't know how realistic it is. Do we look to do that? So if we are going to have to move now, we're going to have to do it relatively quickly, and we're going to have to very quickly decide, okay, we could potentially buy somewhere cheap now. We could get enough mortgage to buy somewhere like a 2-bed. We could buy a 2-bed now. We just can't buy this house now. So we could potentially buy now and get some commercial property, but those 2 things probably aren't going to happen simultaneously. So if we were to buy or rent somewhere small, there's going to be at least a period of time where if we have a 2-bed, it will probably be 1 bedroom to sleep in, 1 bedroom for me to make Football Manager videos in, and Lego goes in storage for a bit until we find somewhere to put it. And I don't know how long that period would be, because again, once we get to October, I'm super busy with the main channel, and yeah, it could potentially be we move now, but don't have somewhere for the Lego until spring, which is obviously a long way from ideal. The other option is that we rent somewhere now, rent somewhere bigger, similar to this, that has room to keep it all under the same roof, similar to this house. But then we have complications around, will we even be able to do that because of the issues around proving our income at the moment? I don't actually know. I need to speak to a rental expert. I'm waiting for some phone calls now, just to get an idea of how much we could actually rent for, because we have got a very good deal on our current house, and for us to get a house similar to this one, it's probably going to come close to doubling the rent that we pay now. We pay well under market rate. The rent we pay on this house wouldn't even get us a 2-bed house in the same area now. So we are on an incredible deal. So if we were to get somewhere similar, we're going to be spending a lot more money, and I don't know if they're going to accept I promise I can afford it. Maybe we can get letters from the accountant. I don't know. I have no idea. So it's an option, and if that happens, obviously we pretty much just move stuff over as is. If we could find somewhere 4-bed, we then have the one room to sleep in, the one room that is my office, and then me and Anna get a Lego room each. There's even a scenario, we've looked at a couple of places, only on Rightmove, we haven't been for any viewings, just to get an idea of what's out there. There's a few places that have really big living rooms. We don't really use our living room. We never sit and watch TV. I rarely go in there. So we could potentially do a 3-bed if it had a big living room, because then Anna could have the living room as part a place to put her PlayStation and part her Lego room and our streaming setup. And then the other 2 bedrooms, I could have one for an office, one for the city. We've also looked at the idea of what if we got someone with a garage, because then we could put a Lego city in a garage. I've worked out of a garage before, so we could potentially do a 3-bed with a garage, maybe even a 2-bed with a garage. Not that I think such a thing even exists. So there's so many options, but bottom line, most of them do involve packing all this up and moving it. So that's why I've not done any more progress on the beach, because I don't want to build this really cool beach. I mean, I can probably tell you now, I'd been planning later on this year to take my beach mock to a convention and show it as a mock. Now that's probably off the table for this year, because I'm probably not going to get it done and probably then not going to be able to take it. So yeah, that might push forward into next year. And there might be a few videos over the next few weeks that are about packing up a Lego city and moving a Lego city and then starting again somewhere else, whether that is in a garage or in an office or in the spare bedroom of a new house. Or, I mean, there's even a thing, we have a storage unit at the moment, and the place where we get our storage unit from does do bigger serviced units that you can effectively run a business out of. So we could potentially move the city into there. There's lots of things we could do, but we don't know what any of those things are going to be. And until we know what's happening with this house, everything is kind of on pause, including buying Lego. I know I bought some Lego this week. I bought the stuff on the Prime Day stuff, but we're not going to buy in the same kind of quantities because we don't know where to put it, and we might not be able to build it. And yeah, it's just a pain. It's the worst possible time. I love this house, and if they'd have asked us a year ago, we'd have bought it. And if it had happened next year, we'd have bought it. And it'll be really frustrating if, just because of timing and circumstances, we have to potentially move twice, once into somewhere temporarily rented, and then once when we still plan to buy again in the next year or two. So that's frustrating. I'd really like to buy this one, so I really hope that we can find a way with our current landlord to make it work, where we can rent for another year and then buy at the end of it. But if it doesn't work for them, then there's not a lot we can do. They're not like an evil professional landlord. They're nice people. The only reason they have a property to rent out in the first place is because they're a couple. They both owned a property. They moved in together. They rented out the one they weren't going to live in. So they're not evil landlords. They are nice. They want to work with us on it. Who knows? But that has been a very long, very waffly video that's not really been about Lego, but I felt like I had to upload it somewhere, and this seemed like the most logical place to put it because it does have that impact on what happens here. So I guess I'll stop waffling now. If you have enjoyed the video, I mean, this is how you end YouTube videos. Just leave a like anyway. It's probably not one to enjoy. It's more informative. But subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on, because whatever happens, it's going to be interesting. And thank you very much for hearing me out as part of this therapy session. It's much cheaper than going to an actual therapist.